All right. It is 9:03. Welcome to the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. We are going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation by Marvin Jacobo. So please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please pray with me. Master, you love our county and we love it as well, and candidly, you love it more than we do. In the scriptures, you have said that citizens ought to willingly work alongside the governing authorities, since you've established those very leaders to promote peace, order, and justice. So because of that directive, at this time I do pray for our board members, for Jody Hayes, for the various levels of county officials, and in particular for this assembled board. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them, first of all, wisdom to govern among the conflicting interests and issues of our times and communities. Give them wisdom, Lord. A deep sense of the welfare and true needs of all of our citizens, all of them, Lord. A keen thirst for justice for all of them. The ability to work together in harmony even as there is honest disagreement. The courage to lead as they ought. Give each board member peace in their lives and joy in their task. We're assured that you are blessing them because of their sacrifice of service. And may they continue to model for us sacrificial servant leadership. May you align us all to move our county toward a dream that our communities would be a good place to grow up in and grow old in. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your beautiful prayer, Marvin. All right, as we move on to item number 3, presentations, we have an update on the local emergency due to winter storms and flooding impacting Stanislaus County by Sheriff Jeff Dirksey. Sheriff, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. Thanks for having me. It was, I think, 2 weeks ago today, if I recall correctly, that we stood here and told you that we had proclaimed a state of emergency for Stanislaus County due to the floods. And so today we're going to give you an update, and that state of emergency still exists, and we're going to cover that here in a minute. So, Brooke, if you would, the next slide. So we're going to talk about the impacted numbers a little bit. I think everyone knows it rained an awful lot, so I'm not going to talk about how much water we had, but there was a lot. The single biggest impact that we had was on the west side in the chairman's district, just kind of based on the geography and the unrestricted creek flows that are out there, specifically with Del Porto Creek and Orostimba Creek. Those are the two significant ones out there. But from a people standpoint, since people are always our number one concern, we had 176 people that were evacuated, that actually left their homes. 54 of those were from a skilled nursing facility or an assisted living facility in the town of Newman. And that was kind of a proactive evacuation given the projected creek flow specifically for Del Porto, that it could potentially have flooded the city of Newman to the depth of 3 or 4 feet. And that assisted living facility is sort of at the bottom of the bowl, so to speak. And there were a number of folks that lived in there that required kind of extreme assistance, especially if an evacuation was needed. We couldn't have gotten them out if it actually flooded. In our evacuation order zones, there were 207 different addresses that were in there with approximately 675 individuals, and that is always approximate. It's based off census numbers. You know, people could have moved in or out, but of those, 176 actually left. And then we have had some evacuation warning zones where they were kind of given the recommendation, be prepared to leave, though they were not ordered to do so. And you can see that was 319 addresses with a little over 1,100 folks that were warned. We did open 2 shelters. The only one that really saw any use was the one in the town of Newman, at Yellow Middle School, that at its peak had 12 people, 4 trailers, 4 RVs that had come with some of those folks. 5 dogs and 1 cat, although at some point the cat disappeared, so I don't know if that was due to the dogs or some other means. Next slide, Rob. Here you can see some of the areas that were evacuated, given both an evacuation warning or an order, and we're going to zoom in on this momentarily. And this is actually our dashboard, which I'm also going to talk about in greater detail momentarily. Brooke, next one. Again, just kind of zooming in here, this is specifically out on the west side. The red diagonal hash marks indicate orders, evacuation ordered areas, and then the, we'll call it orange, amber, horizontal lines are areas that were warned to leave. Next slide. This is the one that occurred up here in South Modesto, right along kind of 9th Street and River Road. There are some trailer parks there in the low-lying areas along the Tuolumne River, and specifically the impact there is the confluence of Dry Creek. Dry Creek is kind of the eastern unrestricted creek, meaning it has no reservoirs or anything in it that control the flow, and Dry Creek was very, very high. I actually live on Dry Creek, and some of you saw pictures of me paddleboarding on my fields that were flooded. But that impacted this particular area, though it was a warning only. With this, we established the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC. This was moved for this operation to the Sheriff's Office. It worked quite well in one of our conference rooms there. We have very good connectivity. And we had a number of folks that were down there. Overall, 130 individuals participated in this operation, and it was from a variety of different county departments, our irrigation districts, CAL FIRE, kind of all over the place. Great work was done in there. I'm very proud of the team for everything that they did, kind of coordinating this. And a couple folks that I really want to call out are our CERT team, our Community Emergency Response Team, that was established recently by OES, and they are community volunteers that come out specifically for things like this. They did a variety of things for us that were very helpful. And then ARES, which is our ham radio operators. There are a number of spots specifically on the west side where we have very poor communications with our kind of built-out communications infrastructure, so they were able to provide us with the resource that we could get out there and talk. So our dashboard, this is just a screenshot of the dashboard, and we can show it to you live if you wish to see it. This was kind of taken at the peak of our various warnings and orders. With road closures. But the reason I want to talk about this is this was developed by our GIS guy on loan from ITC, who just did a great job. And the dashboard is really the kind of the focal point that we keep coming back to. And this is going to be a living, breathing, continually updated dashboard. And that is going to be available. The link has been put out, and we will continue to post it. And you can find it off the website. But anytime there's a major event in the county, we intend to just immediately go to this dashboard. It could be flooding, right? We are always looking forward to what I call March. If we get another series of atmospheric rivers and full reservoirs and a bunch of snow melt, we could find ourselves in the same position as last week or worse. So you can go to the dashboard to see the impacts there, or you'll fast forward 6 months when all of this rain creates lush vegetation that is then going to burn when it dries out. Wildfires will refer you to the dashboard, but it's just a great way for the public to kind of see in more or less real time what's going on across the county. Same thing if we have heating zones or cooling zones, as appropriate, they'll be on our dashboard. Next slide, bro. So next steps, as we kind of come hopefully to the short-term end of this, we are still under the state of emergency, and as the Director of Emergency Services, I am not yet prepared to lift that. And the primary driver is we do still have one area under an evacuation order, and I think it would be very disingenuous to those folks for us to say the emergency is over while we're telling them they cannot be back in their homes. We do expect that to be resolved relatively shortly. The major impacts out there, as of yesterday, there was still standing water out there, a lot of direct water impacts. And then there are some community wells or septic systems that DER has to inspect to make sure that the water in the wells has not been contaminated and that the septic systems work correctly so that there's no public health risk and so on. All of that is ongoing, but we're not ready to lift that evacuation order at this time. Hopefully that will be done within the next next week, but no guarantees, and we will come back to the board at the appropriate time. It may be over, but we'll give you an update after we have lifted it. And then we are now in the recovery phase, and that, our county has claimed just over $15 million total for all the entities in the county. Right, that includes some of our cities that have had claims, special districts, an irrigation district, whatever the case may be. The county has just a little bit north of $11 million that we believe in damages, and that is still at this point kind of a best guess. Right, there are spots that we can't get we can't get estimates on. That's just kind of going out there and saying, all right, that road looks like it's severely damaged. It's X feet long and Y feet wide, and the math says it's going to cost Z to repair that. And then FEMA is coming out, I think it's tomorrow, to tour our area, and they'll do their own assessment. The one area that we can still use a lot of help is for the public to go in and provide damage estimates. And we are out and about in the community starting yesterday through Thursday. Yesterday we were in Wesley. Today we're at the Crows Landing Fire Station. Tomorrow we'll be at the Newman Fire Station, and on Thursday up at the Diablo Grande Clubhouse. And that's where community members can come in and say, hey, my home, my whatever was damaged due to the storms, and we can collect that data. They can also do it online. There's a variety of ways to do that, and we are messaging all of that. And I believe that is all that we have, pending any questions from any of you.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to ask really quickly, if I could, the people that want to put in damages, where's the first place they should start? On the OES website?
Yes, there is a link. They can fill out an initial form online, and then there will be subsequent follow-up from the appropriate entity to gather more information. And I do want to clarify, too, that is not a guarantee that they are going to get any kind of state or federal or county money, and it is not the same as making an insurance claim. They have to do that as well. But if they don't let us know about the damages, they will absolutely not get any kind of state, county, federal money. So
essentially what we're doing is we're trying to accumulate the information so we can get reimbursement.
Yes.
From the state of the feds. Thank you.
Not so much a question, Sheriff, but just a comment. I got to visit the EOC several times. I just want to thank everybody that was involved with that. It was a well-run machine. I'd like to thank all of our county employees that filled positions that normally they wouldn't be filling. And just the way everything ran, all of our special districts, city departments, how everybody was working together. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Now, the team at OAS does an excellent job, so thank you.
Yeah, as Sheriff, incredible job, definitely. Chief Murdoch, the staff, you guys did wonderful. As we move closer to March and April, if you could just kind of speak to the preparedness and the preparation that is going into that.
Yeah. So as I said, I always just call it March. It could be February. It could be April. Right? We don't know when the next major weather event will hit, but we are concerned. We were saved somewhat in this occurrence because our reservoirs were largely empty, and that impacts specifically the Stanislaus and the Tuolumne in our county, coming out of New Melones and Don Pedro, respectively. Obviously, the San Joaquin is a major impact for our county as well, but there are a lot of inputs on the San Joaquin that run well south of us, so we have to monitor that. So our concern moving forward is that if we get another major series of atmospheric rivers that bring in significant moisture, and it's warm, that melts the snow, and our reservoirs are full or at least near capacity, that we will then see a major rise in our rivers. A lot of the damage from this incident was as a result of our creeks, Dry Creek, Oristemba, Del Porto, et cetera, that did have impacts on the rivers, but if our river flows are much higher, that is our concern. So as far as the preparations go, the specific thing that we're working on with that is developing the maps that will tell us, at flood level, this is, the impacted area. At a foot over flood level, it's this. At 2 feet, et cetera. So that we are prepared as we look at the forecast to issue whatever warnings or orders are necessary to protect our public. And then with that, we have for that evacuation shelter, which we have a number of places across the county that we can use, and this instance, we used Yolo Middle School in Newman, and then the Salvation Army in Modesto, although I don't believe anybody actually made use of that. We did open it, we kind of opened it and closed it a couple times, but there are many others that we can use if need be. And so it's just working on them, making sure our process is good for opening those, making sure that there's staff identified for that. And then, even stuff like the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds is kind of our designated spot for any livestock evacuations. And we did actually have to go and rescue a couple of cows that were chest deep in water out on the west side. I don't think they had to go to any special shelter, though. I think the property owner took them elsewhere. But those are the sort of things that we prepare for. And I would have to ask Public Works, but simple things like restocking all of our sandbags, making sure that we're ready for the next go around with an adequate supply on hand. So those are the sort of things that we're looking at. But a lot of it is that planning and the ability to predict the impacted areas specifically. That's always where my concern is.
Well, thank you so much, Sheriff. We really appreciate it. Thank you for keeping us safe. Chief Murdoch, your team, thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we will have a PowerPoint presentation from our Senior Transit Planner with Stancog, Clarissa Herlin. Clarissa, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Supervisors. My name is Clarissa Harnlin, and I am the Senior Transit Planner with Stancog, and I will be presenting to you today. I would like to thank you for allowing me to present today about the Transit Development Act and unmet transit need process. I would also like to recognize Jean Folletta, who supports Stancog on our transportation efforts. Stancog began the public comment period for the unmet transit needs process on December 19, 2022. The public comment period is set to close on February 14, 2023 at 4 p.m. Today I will be walking you through Stancog's required unmet transit need process. Stancog is a council of city and county governments that was established by Congress to address regional air quality and transportation issues, including public transit. Stancog is designated as the Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Regional Transportation Planning Agency for the Stanislaus region. The policy board is comprised of 16 elected officials from Stancog member agencies. The County Board of Supervisors has 5 representatives on the Stancog board. We have Supervisor Withrow, Supervisor Chiesa, Chair Condit, Supervisor Graywall, and Supervisor Buck Condit. Stancog is responsible for the administration of the State Transportation Development Act funds, which have 2 funding sources, the Local Transportation Funds and the State Transit Assistance Funds. The local transportation funds are derived from the quarter-cent sales tax measure statewide. Stancog's regional portion of the last fiscal year was approximately $28 million. Stancog must resolve any unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet before local transportation funds can be used for non-transit purposes. The state transit assistance funds are derived from statewide sales tax on gas and diesel, and Stancog's last fiscal year was approximately $5 million, which may only be utilized for transit-specific projects. Stancog conducts public outreach to solicit input from the public on unmet transit needs. The public hearing is conducted each year to provide members of the public, local transit agencies, and local jurisdictions with the opportunity to share new or previously identified unmet transit needs. Stancog prepares an annual unmet transit needs analysis of potential unmet transit needs that were identified during the year's assessment. The resulting report includes a summary of findings, which identifies if there are any reasonable to meet. The analysis report is presented to Stancog's Policy Board for consideration of approval. Following the approval, Stancog submits the unmet transit needs analysis to Caltrans. This year, Stancog is holding 2 public hearings. The first was held on January 18th. The second will be held virtually via Zoom on February 13th, and this public hearing will have Spanish translator present. It is StanCog's goal to reach as many residents as we can through this outreach process and receive feedback from all those who wish to participate. To register for the virtual public hearing, please visit the StanCog website at the bottom of the homepage under Projects and News. On this webpage, StanCog also provides an online survey and comment form which are available in English and Spanish translation. StanCog encourages feedback year-round through both the online survey and the comment form. All comments received by February 14th at 4 p.m. will be included in the fiscal year 2023-24 Unmet Transit Needs Analysis Report. Comments may also be submitted via email at unmettransitneeds@stancog.org, via phone at 209-525-4600, via mail, regular mail, Stanislaus Council of Governments, attention Clarissa Hernlin at 1111 I Street, Suite 308, Modesto, California. And you can also find us on Facebook under Stanislaus Council of Governments. Should you need any of the links provided today, please reach out and I'm happy to provide them. Again, my name is Clarissa Hernlin and I am with StanCog, and this concludes my presentation. I'm open for any questions and I appreciate you allowing me to talk with you today.
Thank you, Clarissa. Do we have any questions or comments?
Just real quick, Clarissa, thank you, Gene, thank you guys both for being here. I just wanted to mention how we've recently formed, has it been 2 years maybe now, the Regional Transit Authority, where we have combined what used to be 5 separate bus systems into just, I think we're down to 2. All of our bus systems in the county have combined into the Regional Transit Authority except for Turlock. And so just great things are happening there. Much more efficiency, we're hoping will come from that, and just make it easier for ridership, better routes, all kinds of things that we've done there. And I want to recognize Stephen Morrow, who is one of the public board members, who is on the Regional Transit Authority Board, and appreciate his efforts in being involved. And so, anyway, a lot of good stuff going on with transit in Stanislaus County, and I want to thank you guys and everything for this presentation and all you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Clarissa, for the report or the presentation. Do we contact other groups like our Commission on Aging, our Veterans Advisory groups, at least making contact to see if they want to make a comment?
We have reached out, and the feedback that we received from the agency's participants is that they felt their voice was heard through StanRTA's comprehensive operational analysis process, which we're continuing to partner with as well and include in our analysis.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
So on the unmet transit needs, I think it's important that the public understands that you had talked about the local transportation funds and state transit assistance become TDA, which is the total allotment of money for transit services. And Measure L does provide a little portion of it, but that's the total amount of money. So if we fund an unmet transit need, we have to take money potentially away from transit routes, or currently, is that correct?
So the way that it works is the transit operators will provide it through our TDA claim process, and then they'll need to fund those first before they work on any future projects, if we find one that's reasonable to meet.
Yeah, and typically if they add, if it costs $3 or $4 million, you're talking about, because I think the total TDA, do you know what the total TDA is for the county, the 2 transit systems? I think it's $0.25 cent, right?
Yeah, it's $0.25 cent. So
half a Measure L.
part of finding it reasonable to meet is that it also has to be financially reasonable, and it cannot, for example, burden the transit agency. So that does come into effect when we're looking at those reasonable to meet.
Yeah, I've seen many things come forward over the years, and they always are. They always are good ideas.
Yes.
But it always is tough to meet the burden of the cost, because as we've talked about consolidation to become more efficient, that's allowed us to run better routes more often, right? With I guess more consistency. And so anything else that gets funded potentially takes away from that, and it may make the entire system less efficient, if that makes sense. But I appreciate all you do. I'm glad that you're
Thank
doing
you.
these outreach meetings. This is very important work
Absolutely.
that you're doing.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Public comment, public comments coming up next.
Public comment is next. Miguel?
No, we don't.
I'm being told that we don't have public comment during the presentation segment. But we are on a public comment portion. So this is an opportunity for those in the audience here today to comment on any items not related to the agenda. And you have a 5-minute limit for all speakers. So I am going to be calling up first Denise Dean, followed by Stephen Morrow.
Hi.
Hi, Denise. Good morning.
Good morning. I was here a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you're remembering me, but I have a ministry called Home is Where the Heart Is. We go out into the byways and highways in the trenches, and we feed the homeless. We clothe them. We give them the essential needs that we can give them just to kind of Band-Aid their problems. Last time I was here, I was talking about some property. This time, I would like to talk about some PPE. I work in a freezer at night, and one day I took this outfit. This is why I'm so well dressed today for you. It was wet. I didn't have a chance to dry it, and I put it on. I had to wear it anyway, and I went to work, and I work in a freezer. And in the freezer, this actually dried with just my body heat. So I had this great idea that this year, because every year on Christmas, I have a Christmas party for the homeless. If I could buy them these rain boots and these, that they would be warm. It wouldn't matter because it's waterproof, and it keeps me warm in the freezer. It's going to keep them warm. So I did go out and I bought rain boots. I thought if we could get their feet dry and their bodies warm, that they would be able to survive. So my petition today is that maybe you could help to buy PPE for all the people on the street, the homeless community. It was well out of my reach. I was able to buy the boots and snow pants, which helped a lot of people. But it runs around $100, $200 per person. I feed personally myself about 150 of the same people every week. So my petition for you would be, could you partner with me, get some of this PPE for them, and I would make it my personal responsibility to hand it out, to get you signatures, to give you whatever proof you need that we could, that I could give you, and partner with me. Maybe even match me. I do have some money, but I don't have enough to do the whole suit. If you could just picture yourself, what keeps me going, I just picture myself sitting on the side of the road, and I have nowhere to go, and nobody cares, and what do? And then it's pouring down rain, and I'm freezing, and I don't even have a jacket. That's why I do what I do. So I would like the county to step in and help me get these for these people. It will save lives. I know you can't house them. I know that it's so complicated. The housing it's such a complicated thing, and I know you guys try. The Gospel Mission, I work closely with them. They try. Salvation Army tries. We all try. But this would save lives. They wouldn't die. They would be able to survive. So that's why I'm here today. And this time I did leave my number on that card. Last time I didn't leave my number on the card. But if there is any way that the county could help me get PPE, this, and maybe some rain ponchos for these people with rain boots, that's it. That's what I'm here for. I'm done.
Oh, thank you, Denise. We appreciate it. Thank you.
So how do I go about doing that? Is there funding for PPE? I know that when the pandemic hit, there was plenty of funding for the masks and for the, all that stuff.
I think our CEO is has a comment.
Yeah, we don't have a specific process for, anyone to just come to the board meeting and request utilization of funds in the manner in which you're requesting at this time. We do have a division of housing and homelessness that works at the Community Services Agency that is our conduit for utilization of homeless funds. There are also many other agencies out there that distribute funding to local projects within the community. So I would encourage you to reach out. We probably have somebody in the back that can meet with you to give you direction on where to go to make your request. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Denise, thank you. All right, Mr. Morrow, followed by Maria Arevalo. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisors, and Mr. Hayes and Mr. Bose. Today I'm going to offer some comments on the current scene in Washington, D.C. and how it can affect us here. The House Freedom Caucus, which evolved from the Tea Party movement, refused to support Kevin McCarthy for Speaker unless certain terms were met. Now, we'll have to see how the House will function under those terms as we go forward. It did struggle when the Tea Party attempted to impose its ideas in the 2010s. This group simply did not want to compromise. But compromise is how our current form of government developed. After the American Revolution, our nation struggled to get organized. The weak government under the Articles of Confederation simply could not get things done. So leading a revolution and leading a nation are two very different things. A group of men met in Philadelphia in 1787 to try to attempt to straighten things out. Most of these men were key players in the revolution. But now a country had to be governed, and they had to shift from rabble-rousing to leading. Now, these men all had very different ideas how to organize this central government, but they all knew that the government and the nation were in trouble. So they labored through one compromise after another to produce the Constitution. Now, each of those 39 men who eventually signed the Constitution likely were not 100% satisfied with the whole document. But the Constitution that they created through that compromise has stood as a model to the world for over 235 years. So we hope the current group of leaders will take inspiration from those men 235 years ago and work together to solve our current problems. Now, there is a room in this country for activism. The activists who raised issues and awareness have certainly created some very positive benefits for us. The civil rights movement was led in the streets by Dr. King and his colleagues, and they certainly faced a lot of challenges. But the movement also benefited from Thurgood Marshall and his legal team working through the courts to solve the problem. And we have to remember that Mr. Marshall, during the time he was winning and arguing those landmark cases at the Supreme Court, had to stay in black-only hotels and eat in black-only restaurants, which he was working to get to do away with. Now, our current big problem, the debt ceiling. Now, our predecessors in both parties ran up this tab, but now we have to live and deal with it. So our government certainly has to get its financial house in order, but we still have to service our debts. We cannot let them go. The men who drafted the Constitution very easily could have repudiated all the debts that the Republic developed during the Revolution, but they chose not to do so and actually inserted a clause in the Constitution stating that those old debts were valid against the new government. Now, the debt limit, solving it, is certainly going to be a challenge, and it's certainly not helped by talk of cutting Social Security at the same time billionaires pay little or no income tax. So here, locally, we can't play those same games they do in Washington. We have to balance our budget. Now, limited, prudent use of debt can certainly benefit our local economy and our local government, much the same as a family who takes out a mortgage in order to be able to buy a house. But any reckless use of debt, as we have seen in Washington, is going to get us in trouble, so we certainly cannot afford to do that here. So let's take some inspiration from the men who drafted the Constitution. No one person has all of those answers, but let's be willing to listen and compromise in order to get our business done. And we certainly thank the members of this board for being prudent and willing to talk and compromise and do our business properly, unlike what we sometimes see out of Washington, D.C. So, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors, Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate your words. All right, Maria Arevalo is next, and then we're going to have Anna Andrade. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. My name is Maria Arevalo. I'm the chair of the Latino Giving Circle here. We had some information that this meeting was going to involve a discussion of funding for 2030, for STAN 2030, and we wanted to be part of that discussion, hear that discussion. It looks like now that the agenda has changed, but we wanted to make a couple of comments nevertheless. First, we want to congratulate the board for having a successful application for the farm worker. Am I doing something wrong here?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, please keep going.
Yeah, we wanted to congratulate the board for your successful application for the Farm Worker Resource Center grant, and thank you for your financial commitment to support that grant. We also note that the La Cooperativa Campesina de California has been awarded federal funds for one-time $600 payments to farm workers, and so we are really gratified to see that aid come to our farm workers and undocumented folks in our community. We think that's a great positive step towards supporting these folks. But again, we're going to note that the undocumented and farm worker community still suffer from the effects of COVID, and now they continue to experience hardship because of the drought and the heavy rains, which have affected the work available for farm workers. And as you may know, farm workers are exempt from unemployment compensation. That's one of the benefits that they don't qualify for. So their economic struggles continue, and so we feel that it's important that we, the community, along with the county, again, seek ways to augment the minimal benefits that they now receive. We noted that the Board of Agenda item today includes an item that is going to fund Opportunity Stanislaus, and that funding has been delayed so that it can align with the purpose of STAN 2030. But as we begin again to note that funds are being allocated, it brings to mind the surplus that the county has from these ARPA funds. We understand that the county has $17 million in reserve from the ARPA funds that were given to the county, and it's precisely those funds we think can be used to aid the farm worker and undocumented community in our county. As we continue to gather community support for our request that money be used for farm worker payments and for legal services for undocumented folks, we want to ask the county, how is the county assessing community needs and using that information to determine ARPA disbursements, specifically the ARPA funds that are held in reserve? I note that STAN 2030 made significant efforts to bring in community input about which projects were going to be implemented and how those funds are going to be used. And so I'm hoping that the similar efforts will be made to get input about the surplus ARPA funds that are being held by the county. And so what I want to ask the board is to please keep us informed of how those monies are going to be used, how that input is going to be gathered, and what the status of those funds are, as we continue our efforts to bring to you evidence of support for the use of those funds for the farm workers. So thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
Just a quick comment, and I actually had an announcement I was going to make prior to the consent calendar, but I'll go ahead and make it now. We had originally planned to bring an agenda item today to discuss next steps in our Stanislaus 2030 investment blueprint program. And unfortunately, we were unable to get all of the work completed that we wanted to have done for today. So we determined that it would be better to come back on another date. We haven't determined exactly what that date will be, but I would just encourage everyone, please monitor our agendas, and you'll see it posted here in the near future. We'll probably have a couple of different discussions on this topic in the near future. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And apologies, we couldn't hit today's date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Okay, next, Dr. Andrade, followed by Mr. Donoso.
Good morning, Chairman and
Good morning.
Supervisors. My name is Dr. Ana Andrade. I'm here representing Stanislaus Giving Circle, a member here with Maria Arevalo. First, I want to go ahead and congratulate you for your recent appointment, Chair of the Board. And secondly, I want to piggyback on what Maria said. I want to kindly remind you to consider allocating the ARPA funds to farm workers and legal services for our undocumented communities in our county. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Donoso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. I was referring to the presentation from the sheriffs and the Stanco. I think the document is supposed to be in any language, not only English. And I think the guy's missing that issue. If the guy want to reach our community, the guy have the obligation, really, to do the interpretation in any language that's supposed to be over 5% in this community. And the Spanish-speaking community is over 50%. So, Mr. Chairman, I think the second part that I want to ask is in regard to the 13985, that we're still missing not to be part of the policy that Mr. Hayes still refused, and Mr. Thomas, the county council, still not coming together to put that. Not only the 13985, but the 13166 in regard to limit English proficiency. And I think it's necessary for this county to come and finally to put something in the table. And Mr. Hayes is still not doing it for the last 2 years and a half, and I think that's bad in regard to the county to try to do that, especially in funds like the two ladies that come out and ask in regard to the farm workers, specific in the 2020, they're still misleading a lot of people in regard to the so-called executive committee. And the executive committee, to me, is not really represent the community. Plus the 100 members that the guys say they were representing, still not doing the representation in different parts of the community, especially underserved community. So I'm asking to Mr. Chairman to please to come with Mr. Hayes and the county council to come together and really present the policy that affecting our community, not only allocation, but at the same time reaching the community that are not being reached. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Donoso. All right, is there anyone else in the public who'd wish to comment? Hi, good morning. Just please state your name for the record.
You want a mugshot?
No, just your
Thank
name.
you. Deborah Harper, and I'm currently making the effort to peacefully and reasonably reside in Stanislaus County. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Amen. God, Christ, and Holy Spirit are huge. And we've all made it through another year. Never give up. Nothing is perfect. And I got a little magnet to come in here for some reason. Dropped coffee, ran. So prayerfully and respectfully, thank everyone for their efforts. All of the public venues everywhere for their public efforts. If everyone can focus on functioning and not the drama, without being negative and specific, everything will function very concisely. If 45 million people declared that the sky is green, that doesn't make the sky green. So if everyone were to focus on functioning and peacefully coexisting with each other as much as possible, especially in every public venue, that would be very important for this county and the people in it, and for our country. We have a lot of division in a lot of areas, and it's, everybody wants to say it's status quo. Well, if you focused on functioning, that division would reduce without minimizing what the issues are. Prayerfully. Thank you.
Deborah, thank you so much for your comments.
And welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wish to speak? All right, seeing none. Did we have any written comments or any written correspondence? No written correspondence? Okay. So I'm going to...
Sorry.
Oh, Martha.
I thought I had a paper.
Got it. Martha, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Marta Villaseñor, and I represent MAC on Cross Landing. And I want to know when are there going to be the sidewalks on our, on,
Regarding the ARPA funding?
yes.
Okay. We'll make sure to get you those comments, or Jody, if you want to speak.
Yeah, we can certainly have a staff member update you just on the status of our projects. There are a lot of different projects underway, and I don't know that we have a specific answer for you today, but I would ask, any one of our team from Public Works to maybe connect with you on your way out, and if we could at least get your contact information, we can give you a status on the project update.
Because they also said about the speed bumps also.
The speed humps, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
and,
we'll make sure that Public Works reached out to you, Martha.
Okay.
But I really appreciate you being here this morning.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Happy New Year. All right, anyone else before we move on to the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, we have an announcement from our CEO before we move on to consent.
Yeah, just, I would request that we remove item B4 from the consent calendar this morning. We have a missing attachment on item B4, slipped past us in the review process, so we'll go ahead and bring that back after we complete all the attachments at a future board meeting. So let's remove item B4 before you vote on today's consent calendar, please.
Okay, and we will also be removing B1, C1, and 7.1 by Mr. Donoso's request, so we'll be commenting on those items. Do any board members?
B1.
It's B1, C1, and 7.1.
7.1's a discussion item.
Okay, 7.1 is discussion item, Mr. Donoso, so you'll be able to comment on that. But on consent, B1 and C1 will be pulled for comment. Do any members of the board wish to pull any items on consent? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a first by Mr. Chiesa and a second by Mr. Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously 5-0. Okay, so moving on to item B1. Mr. Donoso, you wish to comment on B1?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And B1 is in regard to if these agencies is accepting money from federal state funds, I think mostly in regard to the 13,985 and the 13,166. In regard to that, is any report from that agency in regard to the last time they received money? I don't see no report from that agency in regard to how the guys doing in economic development, specific after COVID-19. And I remember that agency received money to do the COVID-19 2025, and I still not received no report from the agency. And I think it's important to see how the guys doing in regard to the COVID-19 2025. They're supposed to receive some kind of report. It mentions how the economic development is doing specific in regard to the 2030. So I think we need that kind of information, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and we're just going to keep you up here, Miguel, and so you can comment on item C1 as well.
Okay.
And then we'll take it collectively.
You have to restart
sir.
the restart.
C1 is in regard to the,
It's the approval of the cooperation agreement with the State of California Department of Transportation for the state route of 132.
Yes, the question behind that, Mr. Chairman, is to ask Mr. Lehman in regard, if somebody from his office, when you ask for grant, how long it take you from, after the application, how long it take you from the state to give you the okay, any of the programs in regard to the transportation or any funds the public work do? Because many times, sometimes the director from the public works say, we already have a plan for the 2024 regard to the sidewalks and everything, but at the same time, sometimes say, well, the state or the local not give to us enough money to finish with that program. So the question behind that is, how long is it going to take for the grant application in regard to the state applications?
We
Thank you,
will
sir.
try to get you a timeline from Mr. Lehman.
Thank you, sir.
These have already been okayed.
You want me to stay for the other
No,
ones?
we're going to have to vote on these two to approve them, and then we will have the discussion items following. So does any other members of the public wish to comment on item B1 or C1? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Okay.
Motion approved.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Supervisor Withrow, second by Supervisor Buck-Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously, 5-0. Okay, moving on to 7.1 discussion items. We have a PowerPoint presentation by Tony at our BHRS. Tony, thank you for being here this morning.
Good morning, Chairman Condon, Board of Supervisors, Council Rose, and CEO Hayes. I'm Tony Barton, the Director of Behavioral Health Services. With me today, I have Kara Andiano, the Chief Fiscal and Administrative Officer for BHRS. As a contracted mental health plan and drug medical organized delivery system with the state of California, Behavioral Health Services and Recovery administers Stanislaus County's behavioral health services, providing integrated mental health services to adults and older adults with a serious mental illness and to children and youth with serious emotional disturbances. BHRS also provides substance use disorder services for adults and older adults and adolescents, supportive services, prevention and early intervention services, and serves as the public guardian. Thank you. In an effort to address barriers inhibiting access to behavioral health services and to provide an area of behavioral health assistance program to Stanislaus County's residents, BHRS and contracted community-based organizations have historically provided multiple services in multiple sites throughout the county. Over the years, both the number and the size of the programs has increased, and acquisition of clinical and therapeutic spaces for the delivery of treatment services has become a challenge. Additionally, the unique licensing requirements for many behavioral health facilities creates a challenging environment to navigate in order to acquire new sites and relocate existing programs. Over the past 50 years, BHRS has provided a variety of behavioral health services to the community from the county center to campus. The Redwood buildings shown at the top left of the screen were actually designed in 1972 for direct patient care and therapeutic services as the community medical center to protect and provide safety for our community. Over the years, the campus, of course, has had various different uses, including psychiatric inpatient services, substance use disorder services, and crisis emergency for youth and family. We've also provided case management and older adult services, to name a few others. On June 28th of 2022, the General Services received board approval to actually, pardon me for a second, received board approval to designate a site for a new administration and public health facility at the 830 Scenic Drive in Modesto. That was resolution number 2022-0361. BHRS currently operates direct services programs and performs administrative functions in some of the buildings at the county center too. The street address for those buildings occupied by BHRS are 800 Scenic Drive, 820 Scenic Drive, and 1014 Scenic Drive. In addition, the heating, plumbing, utilities, and internet services for various buildings that are occupied by BHRS are interconnected with those of 830 Scenic Drive. Shortly after Board of Supervisor approval of a HSA and Public Health Facility project, BHRS, the Chief Executive Office, and GSA began having discussions about the plan for County Center 2 campus. BHRS currently occupies the following buildings on this campus: 800 Scenic Drive, Building A through J, Redwood buildings on top left of the corner of the map, Building A and H, which occupies IT help desk, IT infrastructure, and funding development, Building B, workforce development and training, Mental Health Services Act, and behavioral health equity, Building C, administration, Building D, human resources and administration, Building E, human resources and medical records, Building F, housing and employment services, Building G, IT developers and outcomes and evaluation management, Building J, volunteer programs, and Larry Purser Conference Center. 800 Scenic Drive, Building 4, in the top left corner of the map, is Genesis Narcotic Treatment Program, accounting services, business office, contract services, quality services, compliance, and utilization management. 820 Scenic Drive, Building K, the small module in top middle, occupies behavioral health advocacy services. 1014 Scenic Drive, in the top right corner of the map, occupies general services and facilities. And with that, in June 28th of last year, 2022, agenda item that was discussed at the board, it was approved that the Building 1014 Scenic Drive be demolished. At that time, BHRS began looking at options to relocate some of the services that are provided in that location. In October 2022, BHRS and CEO and GSA came to an agreement to demolish Building 4 due to the fact that it was built in 1930s with the last major infrastructure improvement occurring in 1978. Programs located in Building 4 continue to experience issues with heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing due to the age of the building. Programs located in Building K continue to have issues with roof leaks, and BHRS is proposing to return the module located Section K to the leasing agent so that the footprint can be utilized as part of the larger HSA Public Health Facility project. BHRS began looking at options to relocate the programs that are currently housed in Building 4 and Building K. Since the utilities and internet are interconnected for the whole County Center 2, they will need to be separated so that the 800 Scenic Drive, the Redwood buildings A through J, will continue to be utilized for BHRS operations. Utilizing the site for mostly administrative operations, as it is currently, is not filling and the highest and best use of the property. BHRS therefore is proposing to repurpose the building remaining in the Redwood section to build an ideal one-stop shop wraparound supportive services model in order to ensure client accessibility to behavioral health supportive services and utilize the Redwood buildings for the direct client service and supports. BHRS began looking at this option and to relocate administrative programs to other sites. Over the past 6 months, BHRS has been working collaboratively with GSA and the CEO staff to identify efficient and cost-effective options that will meet the needs of the community and ensure the programs and services are easily accessible to the community. BHRS has determined that the highest and best use for the Redwood buildings would be to continue to use the campus for direct service programs, since some licensing is already in place and direct services have been provided at these locations in these buildings since 1970s. The site is currently located and it's central to the town and is easily accessible. And of course, the community members are very familiar with the location. BHRS is recommending that the 800-seating site be utilized as a supportive service one-stop shop. The site would continue to house BHRS's housing and employment services in addition to the following programs: behavioral health advocacy, which is operated by BHRS, works with behavioral health clients to ensure that their rights are acknowledged and upheld. Program staff also work with the family members of the behavioral health clients, including those who are experiencing a first episode of psychosis, to advocate for the needed treatment and supportive services, and to make connections to other community programs that can provide assistance. The program is currently located in the 820 Scenic Drive Building K module discussed earlier that will be returned to the leasing agent. Behavioral Health is proposing to relocate the program to Building AH and work with GSA to make site improvements to Building B to utilize as a client reception and interview area. Garden Gate Respite, operated by Turning Point Community Program, is a short-term emergency housing solution for adults with serious mental illness who come into contact with BHRS and/or contracted homeless outreach programs, as well as the law enforcement. Garden Gate Respite is currently located at 605 and 609 5th Street in Modesto and can house up to 8 adults in the facility at a time. On July 5th, 2022, the program received notice from landlord that at the expiration of existing lease on December 31st, 2022, the landlord intended not to renew the lease. Therefore, Turning Point and BHRS have been working collaboratively to identify a new site. Neither have been able to locate an appropriate alternative site other than the 800 Scenic campus. Co-locating Garden Gate Respite with other supportive services such as housing and employment and the Behavioral Health Wellness Center provides one easy accessible site that supports and aligns with the BHRS's whatever it takes approach to assisting clients and families with a serious mental illness. BHRS is proposing to relocate Garden Gate Respite to buildings C, D, and J. In addition, BHRS Wellness Center, which is currently operated by BHRS providers, it provides a safe and welcoming community location for BHRS client to access peer support and to support other clients in their recovery. Peer support specialist staff are peers, clients with lived experience who are recovering from their serious mental illness, and they support each other in strengthening peer and community networks while participating in wellness and rehab activities and groups. The Wellness Center is also placed where clients can be gathering to relax and hang out with each other, creating a supportive environment for any client who walks through the door looking for support or someone to talk to. Behavioral Health Wellness Center was located at 1208 9th Street in Modesto until BHRS received notice in January 2022 from the landlord that the property was potentially going to be sold and covered or converted to a permanent supportive housing site. To support the ongoing housing efforts in the community, the timelines that were developed for the property, and it was vacated back in April 30th, 2022. BHRS has relocated the Wellness Center to an alternative location for the transition period and has been actively searching for appropriate permanent location. Although the leadership has looked for approximately 50 sites, and to date we have not been able to identify an alternative or appropriate location, therefore BHRS is proposing to relocate the Wellness Center to Building A and G at the proposed location. Co-locating these items, these services, it is really in line with, again, whatever it takes approach in assisting the clients and the families to really gather and receive the services that they are needing. And this really coincides also with the support and the initiatives that we have in working with homeless population and those who have particular need or at risk of becoming homeless. And the map that you see is a proposed supportive services one-stop shop that kind of brings all those services together, and it will be actually a model that potentially could be replicated by other counties and service providers.
Today's recommended actions request that the Board of Supervisors approve initiating a project to make site improvements to the Redwood buildings. BHRS and GSA have engaged Dewberry Architects, an on-call architect for Stanislaus County, to develop conceptual designs for the project. If approved, staff will return to the Board of Supervisors at a later date with conceptual plans specific to BHRS program needs. To accommodate the unique needs of the programs, the site improvements for the Redwood buildings will include remodel of the existing restrooms to meet Americans with Disabilities Act or ADA accessibility requirements, installation of ADA compliant showering facilities, installation of a commercial kitchen for food preparation, installation of laundry space, installation of a client reception and interview area, and other modifications in order to meet licensing requirements. Due to the recommendation to demolish 1014 Scenic Drive and 800 Scenic Drive Building 4 and to utilize the 800 Scenic Redwood buildings for direct service programs, BHRS is proposing to lease various office spaces in Modesto and relocate administrative functions and staff to the new office spaces. Staff are in the process of completing lease negotiations for 6 properties whose addresses are shown on the screen. The BHRS director and staff have partnered with the General Services Agency director, purchasing agent, and staff to materially negotiate these leases so far. The full team will continue to partner on resolving any remaining details. Once negotiations are completed and the leases described are executed by the BHRS director, staff will return to the Board of Supervisors with an agenda item to report on the final lease outcomes for each property. 4 of the properties are in the downtown Modesto area and within walking distance of county headquarters at 1010 10th Street, which is the middle of the screen and highlighted in green. Being closer to other departments and agencies that are located downtown will support BHRS's continued collaboration and partnership with those agencies and departments. On the next slides, we'll provide more information about the individual properties. The first one is on the corner of 8th and M, and it will be approximately 8,500 square feet of office space for use by our human resources functions. Lease of the site includes ample street parking for staff and any visitors. The next one is on the corner of 12th and L Street, and it is approximately 26,000 square feet in total. 5,000 of that will be used for medical records storage space, and the site will be used for our medical records functions, quality service, Utilization Management, Compliance, Outcomes and Evaluation, Mental Health Services Act, Behavioral Health Equity, and IT Administration. Lease of the site includes ample parking in an adjacent parking lot. The next property is on 13th Street between K and L, and it's approximately 9,500 square feet of office space for use by our administration, which is our leadership team. BHRS plans to lease 10 parking spaces at the Law Library parking lot, which is right at the end of 13th and K Street, for use by staff. And then there's additional parking that's available one block over at the 12th Street site that we just saw. The last one that's downtown is on the corner of 16th and I, and it's approximately 7,100 square feet of office space for all of our financial functions, so accounting services, business office, contract services, and funding development. Lease of the site includes ample parking in an adjacent parking garage, which is to the top left. The other two properties, the first one is about 3,700 square feet for our workforce development and training functions. It is next to Modesto Junior College off of Blue Gum and Carpenter. It's an ideal location to continue the partnership with MJC faculty and students as part of the department's workforce development efforts in supporting and promoting careers in behavioral health. Lease of the site includes ample parking in an adjacent parking lot. And the last one is about 5,600 square feet for general services facilities, the IT help desk, and IT engineering. It's up on Floyd. The nearest cross street is Oakdale, and you can see it highlighted in green. There's ample parking in an adjacent parking lot, and it's ideal for our IT operations since it's close to the county's secure IT facility. Also, co-locating our general services and IT functions is hoped to create some efficiencies in shipping and receiving and deployment of equipment.
BHRS operates a Genesis Narcotic Treatment Program, which provides methadone and other opioid medication-assisted treatment to those persons with diagnosis of opiate treatment disorder. NTPs also provide detox and/or maintenance treatment services, which include medical evaluation and behavioral health rehab services to clients, and also assist the clients to become productive members of the society. Stanislaus County BHRS is one of only 3 county agencies out of 58 counties in California that still operates an NTP program. San Francisco County Department of Public Health and Santa Clara County Department of Alcohol and Drug Services are the other 2 county agencies that provide NTPs. There are unique challenges associated with the operation of an NTP, including specialized requirement of a drug medical organized delivery system, or DMC-ODS, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Agency, or SAMHSA, State Opiate Treatment Disorders, SOTA, Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, and the Commission on Accreditation and Rehab Facilities, or CARF. Moving the Genesis NTP to another location in the community would be challenging due to the unique clinical needs and licensing requirements. Since the mid-2000s, BHRS has utilized a separate electronic health record to track and manage methadone dosing and other functions of the NTPs. BHRS uses a separate electronic health record for all other medical and Medi-Cal services. Utilizing the maintenance and 2 separate EHRS systems is inefficient, and Genesis NTP is licensed currently to serve up to 260 clients. Since 1998, BHRS has also contracted with Aegis Treatment Centers, LLC, a for-profit organization for the provision of NTP services. Aegis specializes in NTP services and operates over 34 locations in California, is also a part of a nationwide network called Pinnacle Treatment Centers that has 115 locations in 8 states. Aegis Modesto is currently licensed to serve 1,000 clients. The Sirius location is licensed for 300, and they are in the process of opening a location in Turlock. Aegis currently has capacity to accept additional clients up to maximum allowed under the license. There are numerous other nonprofit and for-profit organizations throughout California that also specialize in NTP services. BHRS is in the process of implementing various new DMC ODS and California Advancing and Innovating Medi-Cal or CalAIM initiatives, and is needing to dedicate leadership and staff time and resources to those new initiatives. For this reason, BHRS has made a management decision to discontinue the operation of the Genesis NTP and transition the clients to Aegis Treatment Centers, LLC. As outlined in the staffing impact section of this agenda item, which will be reviewed next, Genesis NTP positions and staff will be reassigned to other work assignments where there is a need within BHRS. BHRS and county leadership would like to thank Genesis NTP staff for their dedicated service over the years and their commitment to the provision of quality behavioral health services to our community.
Genesis NTP services have been provided by 15 full-time allocated positions represented by the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, Local 521, Community and Health Services Bargaining Unit, and the AFSCME Local 10, excuse me, representing the Office Worker Clerical Bargaining Unit. The blue boxes highlight the 6 AFSCME represented positions, and the green highlight the 9 that are SEIU. As outlined earlier, the BHRS One-Stop Shop for Supportive Services Facility project includes the relocation of administrative functions and staff from the Scenic Campus to other locations in Modesto. It also includes the relocation of the Behavioral Health Advocacy Program and staff from one building to another on the Scenic Campus, and the relocation of the Behavioral Health Wellness Center program and staff from Granger Avenue to the Scenic Campus once the site improvements are complete. Consistent with the requirements of the MMBA, the Myers-Milius-Brown Act, the county will comply with any meet and confer labor obligations brought to the county's attention by employees or the union regarding these management decisions. BHRS has vacant allocations in other programs and systems of care and is able to reassign the BHRS employees from the Genesis Narcotic Treatment Program to other priority areas. BHRS will expect to utilize the remaining vacant positions in other work assignments where there is a current need within the department, or will return to the board at a later date and request authority to delete vacant positions that are not reassigned. BHRS performed a cost-benefit analysis of constructing a facility to house all of BHRS's administrative functions versus leasing facilities, and has determined that leasing is more cost-effective. Construction of a 60,000 square foot facility is estimated to cost $990 to $1,260 per square foot at a total cost of $60 to $76 million, not including land acquisition. Amortizing the estimated construction cost over a 30-year useful life results in a cost of $2.76 to $3.50 per square foot. Individual lease information is provided on the screen in front of you. BHRS receives a variety of state and federal funding to support the provision of behavioral health services and supports, as well as administrative functions and infrastructure. BHRS is requesting authority to lease a total of approximately 60,200 square feet of office space for administrative functions. The leased costs will be funded by a combination of Medi-Cal federal financial participation, 1991 and 2011 realignment, and Mental Health Services Act, or MHSA, revenue. The estimated total annual cost for the lease of the 6 facilities is $1.1 million. Leases are being negotiated at competitive rates that are estimated to be $1.25 to $1.70 per square foot, depending upon the condition of the facility, the tenant improvements that are required, and the amenities that are included. A total estimated annual cost savings of approximately $137,000 will result from the relocation of the Behavioral Health Advocacy Program, the Behavioral Health Wellness Center, and the Garden Gate Respite programs to the Redwood buildings on the Scenic Campus. This cost savings will partially offset the cost of the new leases, resulting in a net cost increase of approximately $932,000. The BHRS 2023 adopted budget has sufficient appropriations and estimated revenue to be able to absorb the increase in lease costs. Appropriations and estimated revenue for future years will be included in subsequent budget cycles, and there is no impact to county general fund. The estimated cost to remodel the Redwood buildings is not yet known. The initial design phase is not anticipated to exceed $250,000, which includes architectural design, cost estimating, and other professional services needed in this phase of the project. If approved, BHRS will begin collaborating with GSA to complete the initial design work and return to the Board of Supervisors at a later date with a recommended concept for the facility site improvements, a comprehensive cost estimate, and a funding plan for the project. BHRS anticipates accessing MHSA capital facilities, public facilities fees, or available fund balance for the site improvements, and BHRS does not anticipate an impact to county general fund. We have 10 staff recommendations before you today, so I'm going to go ahead and go through those as quickly as I can. Approve initiating the Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, or BHRS, one-stop shop for supportive services facility project, including staff relocations and reassignments related to discontinuance of the Genesis program at County Center 2, located at 800 Scenic Drive in Modesto. So that was number one. Number two, authorize the BHRS director to collaborate with the General Services Agency to develop conceptual plans and cost estimates for the BHRS one-stop shop for supportive services facility project and return to the Board of Supervisors at a later date with a comprehensive plan to proceed with the project. Number three, authorize the General Services Agency Director, Purchasing Agent, or Designee to issue work authorizations and execute contracts for professional services needed for this effort, so long as funding is available within the BHRS budget. Number four, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with Helder Garcia, Trustee, and Lori A. Garcia, Trustee of the H&L Garcia Trust for office space located at 1231 8th Street in Modesto. Number five, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with Casa del Sol Ventures, LLC, for office space located at 1116 to 1130 12th Street in Modesto. Number six, authorize the Behavioral Health Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with California Equity Management Group for office space located at 1120 13th Street in Modesto. Number seven, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with the Shannon Company for office space located at 1601 I Street, Modesto. Number eight, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with Stephen Kellogg, Kimberly Kendrick, Renee Lamas, and K2L Property Management, LLC, for office space located at 1581 Cummins Drive, Modesto. Number nine, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and execute a lease with Sierra Pacific Sacramento, LLC, for office space located at 2260 Floyd Avenue, Modesto. And number 10, authorize the BHRS Director or Designee to negotiate and sign amendments to the lease agreements listed above throughout the term of the agreements, inclusive of any optional extensions, should BHRS choose to extend the leases accordingly. That concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time. Staff are available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you both for your presentation. Do we have any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I got some comments, but maybe I'll wait till after we finish the public stuff.
Okay. Okay, we will go ahead and open it to the public. Mr. Donoso, I know you wanted to comment on this item.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. I think one of the biggest question is how it would affect the service to the whole county. Because my understanding, we're supposed to help and extend the services to the whole county, not only one area specific like Modesto is the single one-stop services. So how that impact the rest of the county service for mental health programs? That's number one. Number two, I hope that the new director be in compliance with the racial equity in regard to the service provided for the 13985, then 13166 in regard to the limited English proficiency to the services of the community in regard to different languages services in the community. I think we need to understand too how the hiring of the services have multi-language or bilingual culturally staff to serve the community under the new one-stop services. And I think we need to understand that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Tony.
Thank you. The proposed plan does not affect our other services that are provided across the county. So this really centralizes and makes these services in one location, particularly for the population that is at greatest needs, rather than going to multiple locations in Modesto. So our services that are provided in other county locations are not going to be affected. And of course, the department continues to always preserve and ensure that we are reaching out and we are accessing our difficult to reach and individuals that may not be reached at all within the county through various programs and cultural programs that we have. And actually the board last year in fall approved additional expansion of those programs to our underserved and unserved population through the MHSA plan. In addition, of course, we see a great work that has been done with our promotorious model across the county, and the expansion of the MHSA plan that was approved actually extends that model into other cultures and underserved populations.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony.
I'm sorry, that's part, Mr. Chairman. I understand in the commission don't have equal race representation. Maybe it's only one, I think, minority in the commission. I think we need to reflect our community in that commission. I don't know how many members you have, 8, 7 members?
Are you talking about the mental health board?
Yes, the commission, yes.
That's the mental health board, yeah.
Yes,
And so you're saying that there's not enough representation?
Not too much representation for minorities.
Okay. We will take those comments into consideration, Miguel. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Is there any other members of the public that wish to comment on this discussion item? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Any comments, questions?
Tony, did you want to say something there?
Yeah, just want to make sure that, I am aware that we do have, different representations of different cultures in our behavioral health board. And of course, as the seats are vacant, the board members do look at additional assignments and appointments to the board. And actually recently, I think on today's calendar, the board approved Ms. Graywald that is going to representing the Indian community. And we have Asian community, we have Latino community, and others on the board as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. All right. Any questions, comments, Terry?
Okay, yes, please. So Tony, Kara, thank you guys very much for the presentation here. And we all had briefings on this. I just want to say that too. This is kind of a big deal stuff we're doing, and it's not the first time we've seen it. I always like to say that we all had a chance to have input and talk to you about this. So I think this is all really good stuff. What we're doing, the one-stop shop is a great way to go, and I think we're kind of going back to what that campus was originally intended for. As we've talked about, that's what it was, and it kind of got away from that. We got a lot of administrative stuff going there, but I think this is a great way to do it and get back to that. My little notes here, I put leasing good, construction bad. That's what I think we talked about this in one of our retreats. In the private sector a long time ago has gotten away from big corporations. They don't want to own buildings. They don't want to build buildings. They just want to lease them and be able to do their operations, provide their services there, don't have to maintain them. And I think more and more that's what we need to do as a county, is to get to where we're not in the business of of buying properties and constructing buildings, and then, you know, I mean, it's not like we're going to hope it's going to appreciate someday and sell it. It's just, we just don't need the taxpayer dollars to be spent that way. It's better for us just to be able to go out, let the private sector build the buildings, build places that we need, and us just lease them. And I think this is a great way for us to do this, and I hope we continue to do this as we have more need and for locations, that we just don't need to spend taxpayer dollars that way. Let the private sector do that for us, and we'll lease from them, and everybody benefits from that. So that's good stuff, too. Real quick, with regard to Genesis, I know we talked about this, too, in our briefing, and talked about 15 employees. I think we approved here in our consent calendar, like it was B7, where we're approved 4 new positions that we're going to hire. I'm hoping that the 15, some of the 15 can fill the 4. If that works, if those are the same positions we're looking for. They're not. Kara's telling me no.
They're not.
Okay.
So, yeah, but we have spaces for the 15, and so
Right,
that's
no, I know
part
we've
of
got places for them to go, and I know we have such a need in BHRS for individuals that we're looking to hire. And I was just hoping some of those would fit right into that spot. And it sounds like it's great that Aegis has the capacity to take on the number of clients that we're working on right now. That all is perfect, too. So in my mind, this is just a great move, something we've needed to do for a while, and just part of as we continue to improve our services, and we're doing good things in mental health at BHRS, and you guys are doing great stuff to improve those services. And while I've got you here, the last thing I want to just add, and has nothing to do with this, is that Buck and I were both at a Veterans Advisory Commission meeting last night, and it's amazing the work that they're trying to do there with regard to suicide prevention, just with the people that are on it. And we want to get you guys out to do a presentation at their next meeting. I think it's in March, to talk about what services we can help them and partner with them on veterans suicide prevention. So anyway, thank you guys. I very much support this.
Thank you, Terry. Any other?
I just wanted to piggyback on something that Supervisor Withrow just mentioned related to veterans. I was actually going to make this announcement during my legislative update, but since you brought up this topic, I just want to mention it. We were informed last week that the Veterans Administration has provided a significant improvement of mental health benefits available for veterans. So I'll just read part of that, and this is more of a community announcement to make sure everybody is aware of this. Starting January 17th, veterans in acute suicidal crisis will be available to go to any VA or non-VA healthcare facility for emergency healthcare at no cost, including inpatient or crisis residential care for up to 30 days and outpatient care for up to 90 days. Veterans do not need to be enrolled in the VA system to use this benefit. This is a huge increase in benefits and value to our veteran community. And since you mentioned this earlier, I was going to read this later, and I thought I'd just read it now.
That's awesome. Awesome. Doug?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Terry stole all my thunder.
Sorry. He does that.
Tony, Kara, thank you for the presentation. And just kind of put it in a nutshell, behavioral health and recovery services, we're creating a one-stop shop, a gold star with little or no impact to the general fund. No brainer. Thank you.
Thank you. Vito?
So I just have one comment. I know I brought it up in my briefing, and I'm very pleased that Aegis has the ability to create the slots. And I do want you to work with Modesto again, because there's potentially an impact of moving people over to one location, even though the slots are available there. That I just want to make sure that we're in constant communication with them.
Sure.
All right. Seeing no more questions, I will entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve all, was it 10 staff recommendations?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Withrow, second by Supervisor Buck Condit. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Passes 5-0. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, if I may, just wanted to mention, with reference to the suicide prevention, we, as Behavioral Health Services, had done a study on there, say about 4 years ago, some of the results which we some of the recommendations that came to us, we've been working on. But this year, we will be putting together the community as a whole, and we will be coming back to the board with a proposal for a countywide suicide prevention and education plan. The focus is going to ensure that we all across all sectors are working together to educate and prevent suicide. So I just wanted to mention that since this came up, and that will be cross-section collaboration. And then on the SUD services, we are working on some additional proposals to ensure that we are expanding further our substance use disorder services to our community, which will be coming back to the board for that as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those efforts. All right, moving on to correspondence.
This board has received the correspondence and claims as noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Item number 9, any Board of Supervisor reports?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Vito.
So 3 things I want to report out on. First of all, the county's crisis response team, CRT, had a soft rollout last week. This is where a paramedic is riding around with a mental health clinician as we try and utilize the police resources less, especially for calls that can be diverted. And I know they've already had a couple of successes, but it's nice to see that as a slow rollout. And you'll be hearing more about that in the future. Another thing, I rode out in downtown with the Sheriff's Department in downtown Turlock last Friday night. As you may or may not know, there's been a couple of homicides down there. And so the police chief, Chief Hedden, did a good job. He's put a good plan together, and he asked for some resources. So we went and spent the evening. I think there were a few cars down there to have a real show. What's good for the cities is good for the county.
That's right.
And we say that all the time. And it was nice to be down there. Again, it's not a permanent by any stretch of the imagination, but it was good to have a show of togetherness with allied agencies working together. And then Frito-Lay last week for the board members, our chairman, our vice chairman, Graywall, and Buck and myself attended a Frito-Lay event. And it's pretty amazing because you talk about the major manufacturing employers in our community. Frito-Lay is one of them. They employ 1,100 people. They're expanding continually in the beer industrial tract, but they've taken the step of partnering with the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District to go to zero and near zero on most of their equipment. We were celebrating the Tesla trucks. I know that was a big draw, but there's 74 vehicles that are zero or near zero in emissions that were purchased, and some of them were semis, some of them were smaller than that. They were the box trucks, but it's a great partnership. They put in $15 million of their own money to go along with $15 million from the Air Board, which came through CARB. It was such a big event that Steve Williams, the president and CEO of PepsiCo North America, flew out from Texas for the event, and we also had Dr. Stephen Cliff from CARB that was there and allowed us to participate. So we took lots of pictures in trucks, but we had a great showing from the board and Modesto City Council also.
Awesome. Manny?
Thank you, Chair. Last Saturday, I had the opportunity to judge the American Legion Radical contest. There was 2 contestants, one from Modesto High and one from Enox High School. And it was very refreshing, and just seeing these young adults or teenagers talking about the Constitution, talking about different laws in the Constitution, and both of them were seeking further education, hopefully going to law school someday. But for me, just being a judge, it showed that people are still interested in making sure that the law of the land is well read and well interpreted, and seeing our future leaders that are going to work in the legal system or making sure that the rights of citizens are upheld. So it was an honor to judge that contest.
Excellent. Thank you, Manny.
1-1, but I think they were both winners.
Thank you, Manny. And I do want to acknowledge our legislative partners. We have Congressman Duarte's office in attendance, as well as Assemblymember Alanise's office. If you gentlemen have anything to report on, you're more than welcome to. Thank you for being here today. And I know Assemblyman Alanise is our neighbor in floor number 5, so we know where to find Assemblyman if we need him. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. My name is Gavin Klein. I'm the other field representative for Stanislaus for Congressman John Duarte. I look forward to working with all you guys for the residents of Stanislaus County, and we look forward to working together. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then we did have some stuff to report and some acknowledgments to make. Kriston Santos, also from Congressman Duarte's office. Thank you, Chairman Khan and the board. We wanted to make sure we acknowledge your Emergency Services Coordinator, Aaron Wilson. We also had your Deputy Director of Stan OES, Eric Klevmer, and Fire Warden Chris Parnell, who was Stan OES Ops, was very helpful in communicating with us when Supervisor Withrow reached out to us about the situation with the debris jam at Shiloh Bridge, and they helped us get in contact with Army Corps of Engineers stakeholders and other state stakeholders as well. It was an honor to join you, Chairman, as well, to honor the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. at our inaugural march at the King Kennedy Memorial Center, and to join many of you at the Frito-Lay event, welcoming Tesla and other zero-emission vehicles to the fleet at Frito-Lay at the Beard Industrial Tract. We look forward to welcoming more jobs and more investment to Stanislaus County with you. We'd also like to report that since our last meeting, Congressman Duarte, has been given 3 committee assignments that we are extremely excited that have very good implications for our constituents here in Stanislaus County: the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, the Agriculture Committee, and the Natural Resources Committee. We look forward to communicating with you on how we can help our constituents here in Stanislaus County and voice their concerns on those committees. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It was magical when the congressman spoke at Frito-Lay. How often can you be speaking at Frito-Lay and bring water into the scope? It was awesome. You never miss the opportunity. Talk about the need for more water storage.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Good morning, board members and members of the public. My name is Justin Farkas, and I am a representative from Assemblyman Juan Alanise's office. Just coming up here to give a couple updates on what's going on in Sacramento. Last week, Assemblyman Alanise, I wanted to call him Juan like he has John, did receive his committee appointments, the most notable being the vice chair appointment to the Public Safety Committee. Alongside that, he has received appointments to the Agriculture, Budget, Business and Professions, Human Services, and Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committees. All very significant to our district and the promises he made on the campaign trail just a few months ago. So I expect he will be working very hard on all of those issues. We've had the opportunity to introduce 4 different bills in the legislature so far. All the information on those bills can be found up in our office. We're in Suite 5800, like Supervisor Condit had said. Please feel free, if you have the opportunity, to come by. We have fact sheets on all of the bills that we've introduced so far and the ones that we are co-authoring as well. And just a side note here in relation to the state of emergency that we've seen throughout the state. This is just a small update that California is providing assistance and tax relief for Californians impacted by the storm. So anyone who has been impacted by the storm will have the opportunity to file taxes until May 15th, so extending that timeline just a little bit. And there's also opportunities to claim deductions for disaster loss. So those are just the updates I have for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
1 second. From the thousands of viewers on YouTube, I was corrected. It was the American Legion Oratorical Contest. I just wanted to make sure I was grammatically correct for that contest.
Correction noted. All right. Moving on to item 10, Legislative, Fiscal, and Management Report, CEO Hayes.
No, I snuck in my report earlier, so I'm good.
Oh, you're good. All right. So moving on, we do have closed session today. Mr. Bose?
Yes, we have closed session this morning. We have a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. We have 5 cases. I'm not going to read those today. They're in the agenda. And with that, it'd be appropriate for public comment.
Any members of the public wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn at 10:47.